Folks who went before us blazed the trail through history. The heritage they left behind is part of you and me. All the dreams they still live on, and it makes me proud to be a living, breathing part of it all, the American legacy.
Okay, John, we got a lobster in that trap. You want to move it down and make room for this next one?
All right. Although it's called a pot, it's nothing more than a trap to catch a weird-looking animal inside. His fancy name is crustacean, which means hard shell. You and I know him better as Mr. Lobster. Tonight, one of you may be actually eating the tasty white meat found inside this hard shell. For in a matter of hours, fresh lobsters like this, caught here along the coast of Maine, will be flown by jet to seafood restaurants in many parts of our country. Maine fishermen like Charles Begin supply almost 80% of the lobsters eaten in the United States. 5 or 6 times each week, he will haul and reset as many as 600 pots into these shallow ocean waters. Each trap has been baited with a fish to lure the lobster inside the pot. Bricks are even attached to keep the trap from moving around when it's lowered to the ocean floor. Every lobster fisherman also has specially marked buoys tied by rope to the traps to tell him where his pots are. Once a day, he'll use his hauler and harvest his catch. Perhaps as many as 200 to 250 full-grown lobsters that he can sell to markets or fish wholesalers on shore and make his needed profit. Lobsters, however, aren't the only kind of seafood caught in these waters. Let me take you further out in the ocean where there's plenty of codfish, haddock, and whiting waiting to be caught. Not with pots, however, but with nets. Here off the New England coast are the well-known shallow waters for commercial fishing. They extend from a few miles offshore to as many as 100 miles out in the Atlantic Ocean, including the famous Georges Bank. This area is the feeding ground for most of the seafood caught for northeastern United States. Captain Militello's 50-foot boat is similar to hundreds of vessels that fish these waters every day of the year, summer or winter. Such a boat is often called a dragger because it snares or entraps the fish swimming below the water by dragging a huge net across the ocean floor. Once the net, attached to strong cables and tow lines, has been lowered into position, it will be dragged for several hours through the shallow waters, hopefully snaring through its large opening what the men call a good catch. Suddenly, it's time to haul back, to bring up the net bulging with its 1,500 pounds of sea life. The catch is indeed a good one. As soon as the net goes back overboard for the next dragging, the real work begins for Santo and his son Dominic, sorting and cleaning the catch. Each size and type of fish has to be tossed into its separate wire basket. Much of this catch is a fish called flounder. If it's at least 11 inches or longer, it can be kept and sold at market. If it's smaller, it's tossed back into the ocean. Those that are good-sized are cleaned quickly to prevent spoilage and are then passed down below deck to be stored cool and fresh for market. For most of the day, the dragging, sorting, cleaning goes on until the storage hold is full, and then it's time to head into shore. Larger boats may stay out 8 to 10 days, dragging the waters for their full load before they head into port to sell their catch.
3 is 19, 4 is 23, Jackie 1 is 24, Ricky got 9,000. All done?
It's called a fish auction. Here in this region, auctions are the financial heart of the fishing industry. It's where much of the fish caught by commercial boats will be sold, auctioned off to fresh fish markets up and down the shores of New England.
All done at 25.05?
Nearby food processors will also buy their share at the auction. canning or freezing fish products that will eventually find their way to your grocery store in every part of our country. Many New England ports are geographically well suited for fishing and related industries. They have large, well-protected natural harbors with deep water close to the shoreline, as well as rivers close by, supplying fresh water for a variety of needs. And of course, only hours away are the rich fishing banks that keep these diesel boats coming and going. Over 100 years ago, however, these New England seaports echoed to different sounds from a different kind of ship. They all belong to a period of time in our history when the arrangement of masts and spars hung with sail determined how fast you moved through ocean waters. Here at Mystic, Connecticut, you can still experience some of what an early New England seaport must have been like long ago. Now restored for us to see are some of the historic ships, along with the cobblestone waterfront, the wharf, the general store and shops. This was known as the ship's chandlery. It served as a supply store for captains and their crews to outfit their ships with needed equipment and supplies like these boots and this oil slicker, along with quantities of linseed oil, tar, rum, tobacco, and the like. Here also could be bought navigation instruments like the sextant to locate each day the ship's position on charts by sighting the sun and the stars. Up the street was the cooperage for needed barrels to store flour, molasses, and tea aboard ship. While next door in the sail loft could be sewn new or repaired canvas for adding sail to the rigging. A fully rigged ship looked like this, pole-like mass extending upward for perhaps 100 feet, holding crossbeams called spars in place on which the sails are attached and then unfurled and held in place by ropes. Nets were of little use aboard this ship. Instead, you needed well-crafted boats like this one, which could be quickly lowered over the side of the ship when you sighted what you were after. For in the middle 1800s, along many of the New England seaports, catching fish wasn't the main attraction. Instead, it was one of the largest of all animals in the world, the sperm whale, caught with this piece of iron attached to a long rope. It's called a harpoon.
Indeed she is, and making this way.
Get below, you in the masthead!
The rest of you men, get to your boats and lower away. Lay on your oars, mates. Pull! Pull, I tell you. We're almost upon her. All right, Mr. Duval, stand and grab your iron. She's breaching ahead.
I see her. Lay me close as possible. She's hooked good, lads. Now hold well to that rope. She'll be taking us for a Nantucket sleigh ride.
For years, whaling crews out of Nantucket and New Bedford made their living hunting and killing these giant mammals, all with one main purpose, to obtain whale oil. One good-sized sperm whale could provide 100 barrels of whale oil, processed and used throughout America for candle making, as fuel for lamps, or even as a base for making expensive perfumes. But by the 1870s, whaling by American ships was dying out, especially with the introduction of the kerosene lamp, followed by the invention of the electric light bulb in 1879. By 1920, only 2 large whaling ships were still sailing out of U.S. ports. Today, the whalers are gone. In their place are the fishing boats, the freighters, and the tankers. Boston's harbor is the largest and the busiest in all of New England. Here in a year's time, over 1,000 ships come and go, most of them cargo-carrying freighters or tankers They're loading on American products or unloading items of trade from over 100 different countries from all over the world. It's called a container ship. One especially designed to carry on board over 1,000 of these steel and aluminum containers, each about the size of a railroad car. All of these giant boxes are headed for European markets. Inside are carefully packed finished goods, anything from leather shoes and paper products to electrical equipment and machine parts. Most of these containers were packed and sealed up at factories from as far away as Upper New York, Vermont, or northern Maine. Driven by truck or by rail here to Boston's port, they were quickly unloaded, assembled in the dock area, and then transferred aboard ship by a huge crane. The handling of seaport cargo is becoming more and more modernized each day. So too is the building of ships that haul the cargo. This huge, level-luffing crane is the heart of the shipyard. Capable of hoisting some 220 tons at one time, it lifts and lowers into position for welding the many sections of a new ship. Here in Bath, Maine have been the most active shipyards in our country's history. For several hundred years, more than 4,000 ships of every description have been built here along the Kennebec River. Merchant ships of both wood and iron, sailing ships, fishing vessels, ferry boats, yachts, sloops, even warships. Today, the Bath Iron Works continues that tradition, not only building container ships, tankers, and barges, but more than a dozen guided missile frigates that will soon become part of the United States Navy. Here along the river in what are called building ways, ships begin to take shape as huge sections called modules or units are lowered carefully and welded in place. It takes 16 of these huge building blocks all joined together to form a new frigate. Each module has been carefully designed and assembled earlier in the nearby pre-outfitting part of the shipyard. Here the sections can be built much faster at much lower cost than with the old method of building entire hulls first and then stuffing them with decks, bulkheads, pipes, and the like. Every ship, when completed, is really a product of our entire country because the thousands and thousands of different parts and materials needed to make just one module come from almost every state in our union. Steel comes from Pennsylvania, valves from New Mexico, boilers from Texas, kitchen equipment from Tennessee, a great variety of parts to make the ship complete. And when all the modules are in place, tradition takes over. Shipbuilding here at Bath is truly part of America's legacy. Even as new and bigger ships are launched, the older and smaller wooden ships are still being crafted here by men and women who don't want to see the traditional ways of shipbuilding disappear. It's another reason why there will continue to be boats and ships in the seaports of New England.